to actually tell my stories. So it's kind of cool.
No, it's great to have you. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lead Aspire session today. On this Friday, what is it? May 10th, in Mother's Day weekend and all
It
the
is.
good things. And don't know where you guys are, but it is nice and warm and sunny and 80 degrees and a nice cool breeze here in Dallas, Texas, and I am loving it. I'm sorry, Ahmad.
I'm
I'm sorry.
I'm jealous. I'm trying to hold it in, but I'm jealous.
It's okay, but thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us. We have a special guest today. Ahmad is going to introduce himself, but he is one of our coaches. So essentially, if you understand, and well, minorities in cybersecurity, we have leadership development opportunities as well as coaching opportunities under our heels programming, mentorship and coaching and things like that. So this year we're just bringing individuals on that are affiliated with the MiC program to talk about their origin story and talk about where they are and how they work to as it relates to cybersecurity. So welcome again, Ahmad. And thank you so much for joining us today. So first question, tell us about yourself. Tell
Okay,
us your origin story.
sure, sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to everyone in the Mike Lead Inspire program. Um, yes, so my origin, a little bit about me. So my name is Ahmed, as mentioned. Um, I have been a coach for about 20 years now. It sounds crazy saying that because I feel like I just graduated from college like a few years ago. Um, but yes, so the way it got started it was not a very direct path. For me, it was I started out fresh out of school, trying to figure it out. I had just graduated around the time of 9/11, so the job market was not active at that time. And I had to make a choice at that point whether I was going to try to, tough it out or go back to school and try to get my master's, which I wound up doing. And after I started, I went back to school for 2 years, got into management, business management. I went and got my MBA. Initially, I wanted to have a music career, so that's you know complete 180, right? I played instruments, I wrote music. I worked with a couple people in industry you might have heard of, and when 9/11 happened, I had to pivot basically. A lot of stuff dried up, and I was not trying to be a starving artist for fresh out of college and having to pay back loans and stuff like that. So I had to figure it out. So you know, graduated from school, re-entered the job market, and it was still a little tough during that time. But I think one of the things that I've always been good about, and I encourage everybody as they go through their journey to keep an open mind and try different things. So I actually started out in journalism. I started writing for a paper, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was open to the experience and learning, and it was actually really educational. I didn't last long. I was not a very good journalist. So so don't be afraid of failure, is what I would say. First off, failure can actually teach you a lot about what you're good at and what you're not good at, and give you good indication for where you need to ultimately be, right? So I think that's definitely something that I took away from that experience, and it was fun. It was really tough, but it was fun. I got to talk to people that I probably have never given me the time of day if I hadn't been leading with, "Hey, I write for this paper." So it taught me the power of journalism and title, and how people like to be like recognized and famous. They taught me a lot about like psychology in that sense, like how to disarm people, and um, uh, the power of communication, really. Uh, so from there, I think I lasted about 4 months there, and then I got, I started working with Headhunters, and I had all kinds of jobs when I was doing that. I was an accountant for a little while. Um, uh, I was a manager for a period of time, so I worked in entertainment, and I came back to entertainment actually. So I wasn't a music professional at that point. I was working in entertainment more as a business manager. So I started learning the business side of. I was a business manager for licensing. So I worked with MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, on all the IP that they had, and learned a lot about licensing IP there. And that was really educational. Again, not what I thought I was going to be doing fresh out of college, but I was open to the experience. And, it taught me a lot about really the business of intellectual property. And um, it taught me a lot about how to operate a good business. So, I've used a lot of the lessons that I've learned from that in some of the businesses I've started. And again, didn't really know where this was leading, but I was open to the experience, and I just kept learning. I just kept learning. So I stuck with that. Once I was working at MTV and Nickelodeon, I stayed with that for about 9 years. Um, Tried a lot of different things there. I was a manager. I was a database administrator. Because I thought I wanted to get into technology and learn more about technology. And my managers at the time were open to letting me have those different experiences. Um, and then after about 9 years, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to step out from what I was doing and start my own business. So I think it was 2015. I mustered up the courage to tell my manager that I didn't think this was the right fit for me anymore. Um, and I was shocked. I thought I was gonna get like, clear your desk out that same day, but she was actually really supportive. And was kind of, I think she was kind of shocked that I was bold enough to like, come to her and tell her what my intention was. And she actually helped me transition out. It gave her an opportunity to come up with a transition plan, figure out, who was going to actually take over my responsibilities, and gave me some time to you know, end on a good note, right? And I feel like that was really good because I still have good relationships with her today. And this is probably like God, probably like 10 years after the fact. So another thing, I'm gonna get to like key takeaways and stuff like that that I want everybody to take away from this fireside chat. But definitely one of them is try to not burn bridges. Try to keep relationships as much as possible, especially for people who are going to be advocates for you, right? I think that's really important. But moving on, so I transitioned out of that. I tried my hand at being an entrepreneur I lasted about I'd say 3 years. Like I was a consultant. So I was essentially consulting. If you're not familiar with that, I was a hired gun. Companies would contract out for different projects, and I essentially taught myself how to be a project manager. I took a bunch of courses during that time when I was out of work, and I spent, I think, about 6 to 8 months every day just kind of like learning. I felt like when I was working at in corporate, I was learning, but I was kind of learning like very specific functions. I wasn't really learning like how business actually works, and like there's a lot of aspects to business, right? Like it's not just your role as like an analyst, or your role as like a coordinator, or as a you know any of those like titles that you see like when you go onto Indeed, right? There's actually like a lot to it, right? You have the process of going to get new business. You have the process of onboarding that new business. Then there's the process of uh, um, trying to like transact and create the system around how you're gonna, make money off of the business and account for the business. It's like all these different things, and you don't really,
Invoices, invoices,
right?
invoices.
Exactly, right. Like if you're not getting invoices and you're not creating a pipeline to bring in new invoicing opportunities, your business is not working. There's something wrong with your model. And you know, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, these are skills that are gonna, even as a person that um, is working in a corporate job, these things are really valuable. Like I think, the people that I've, coached and worked with who have entrepreneurial experience and background tend to excel and have much higher capabilities oftentimes than people who haven't had that experience. So even if it's something that you try and it doesn't work out, like the types of lessons and um, uh, skills that you can get from that experience, I think are invaluable, right? And it'll you can apply it to a lot of things that you're probably going to do in the future. Um, but coming back to the origin story, uh, so I did that for about 3 years. I think COVID started coming into play. I had just got married, and I was starting at that time. I was like, as a consultant, I was already starting to do like more coaching engagements. Like I would come in as a project manager, and I realized that, as a project manager, there were times when I had to actually be like more of a PMP sort of project manager, where you have to like do roadmaps and like come up with milestones and stuff like that. But then there was times where it was really actually a lot more like interpersonal kind of things, where I was working with managers of managers who just had difficulty with uh, working with maybe it was a third party um, um, company or vendor that was brought in to do designs or do development, like software development, and they were just having a really hard time trying to um, get them aligned with what the overall like business strategy and business goals were. Um, so I found myself actually doing a lot more of that than I expected, and that's what sort of signaled to me that there was a need for this, and this is something that I actually had, a lot of skills naturally, and through my work experience. That I could offer in doing that. So that's kind of how I got on the pathway of coaching and uh, working with people in that way. So that was a really long
Okay, I
long
gotta.
answer.
That's okay. No, you're fine. You're fine. And I was just listening. I was like, oh, I got to come off mute. Uh, so I would say, from a coaching perspective, right? You
Mhm.
said you took a lot of pivots, and I am one to agree with you that being an entrepreneur is very humbling, and being able to understand the business of everything as someone who owns two companies, it
Mhm.
is, it is a lot, right? It's founders and CEOs. When you start your own business, you do a lot, and there is a
Mhm.
lot of different intelligence things that you have to understand. You have to understand finance. You have to understand marketing. Like you said, you have to understand, going out and killing, and then coming home and cooking and feeding yourself, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
it,
Exactly.
it those types of skills, those types of skills are important
Mhm.
to understand in corporate America. So I think, of course, the aspirers are the younger professionals. They are the ones, well, younger or newer to cybersecurity. They're looking to get in the space. And, one of the things that I always tell them is execute. The one thing an entrepreneur does is to have a business model, business mind, and then execute on that strategy. It's the same way in corporate America, I think. And
Yep.
from your experience, I would love your opinion on that. I think it's,
Hmm.
entrepreneurs do better in, those startups or those environments that leave you alone, right? And
Yep.
you can actually do better with strategy and everything like that. And
Hmm.
when I'm talking to the to folks that want to be in cybersecurity, I stress business knowledge more
Hmm.
so than I stress technical skills. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, um, y- the product is the or whatever your product is, right? Like if you kind of look at everything through like a product lens for a second, right? Like if you're a cybersecurity analyst or somebody that works in that space, security is your product, right? And every business is formed around a product essentially, right? Like that whatever you're selling in the market is essentially your business. And understanding how business works around selling that product is going to make you um, understand like the reasons and the thinking behind all the tasks and actions that are being asked of you, um, and it'll make you more effective. I think one of the things that I've really stressed with a lot of the people that I coach is before everybody has like in the course of the day, um, and this goes for managers, people who are just coming into the job market or the workforce. Um, you're always going to have 10,000 things that have to get done in the course of the day, right? There's never going to be a shortage of stuff to do. So what I think separates um, people who are really successful in those types of environments versus people who really struggle with them is understanding how to kind of cut through the noise and really prioritize what's important, what's really going to move the needle, what's going to bring value, and what's going to get you recognized as like a high performer, right? Um, and in order to be able to have that kind of uh, vision and mindset to get through that and understand how that works, you have to understand how your business operates and where you sit within that that system, because every business is essentially a system, right? And that'll help you navigate through a lot of those a lot whatever's being asked of you, right? And it's important to really understand those things because it'll make you every person, whether your title says it or not, you're kind of a leader in your space, right? So it's important for you to always remember that, right? Like if you are an accountant, right, you are leading the charge on making sure that the transactions that are happening on a day-to-day basis are properly categorized so that when reporting happens at the end of the month or end of the quarter, it is on point, it's accurate. Nobody has to question it. They know it's on point, right? And you are a leader in that space. If you're a cybersecurity analyst, it's the same thing, right? Like everybody is leaning on you to make sure that the system is secure, that vulnerabilities in the system are identified, and and that you're thinking ahead of whoever whatever threats may be out there, right? Like you're essentially the guardian of this piece of the business system. So I think coming in with that understanding, you understand your value, you understand how the things that you're doing are bringing value to the organization, and ultimately uh, those are important things for you to have as you kind of navigate your career, right? Like when you're feeling like you're knocking it out of the park and it's time for you to get that promotion, like you need to be able to speak to the value that you've brought over that past year or past however many years. um you need to be able to speak to what types of responsibilities within that system, that business system, you think that you're ready for and that you've demonstrated that you're ready for, right? And all that makes you uh, able to articulate clearly and really get people to become vested in your success, right? And that's a key thing, right? Like, if you can't articulate or verbalize what your needs are and where you're trying to go, it's hard for people to really kind of support that and get behind that, right? So you have to really be um, thinking about that constantly, like while you're working within that business system. Like, who are going to be the people that I need to um, activate within this organization to help me get from A to B. What do these people value? How does the things that they value align with the overall business strategy and business goal? And like really kind of map those things out. Like I think once you have an understanding of that, like every day you come into your job, it's going to make you more effective and more strategic about how you're spending your time. And people recognize stuff like that. It's important.
Now you're getting into your besides coaching your other gig.
Mhm.
And I hear it in your voice as you're
Uh,
talking about it. And I want you to share. Okay, so outside of cybersecurity,
mhm,
just take it out, just younger professionals transitioning into the space. Um, what's a key point besides the business acumen? Because that hands down is most important in my book.
mhm,
What is a key point of advice that you would give, your younger self? How about that? Or younger
mhm,
professional coming into space? You did a little bit of everything, which I love because I did a little bit of everything myself.
mhm,
I'm a IT geek. I'm a lawyer. Former FBI agent. So I have a particular set of skills
nice.
that
Yeah.
that have transpired over the course of several of the 30 plus years that I've been in this space. But
Mhm,
and I personally wouldn't change anything about it. I
mhm,
I mean, try, but give me, as a coach, put your coaching hat on and tell me,
mhm,
what would you tell any the folks that are aspiring to be in cybersecurity? What's the best skill that they should develop outside of the,
business acumen.
certification route? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and that, yeah.
Yeah. I think that you know, I'll say I'll say stay curious, continuously learn, continuously develop. Um, it's so like in today's world, it's funny. I was reading this book the other day, and it talked about how um, today we consume more information than someone in the early 1900s would have consumed in an entire lifetime, right? So we live in a world now where it's just constant content, constant information. Um, and you're only as effective in your role, um, or I mean, not even just your role, just in life, right? You're only as effective as um, the information that you have and the knowledge that you have. Like, like like I tell people all the time, like, knowledge equals value, right? Like you understand uh, your worth when you have knowledge of what's already valuable, right? So I think if you take anything from this conversation today, really just like keep learning. Don't once you get that certification, right? It's great, but there are deeper and deeper and deeper levels that you can go in your expertise in the area, and like it's I'm trying to think. It's a coach. I think everybody's probably familiar with. I think Donnie. What's her name? I'm forgetting her last name right now. But Social Proof is the podcast that they're on. Really, really popular in Atlanta. If anybody on the call is from Atlanta. Um, but basically, what she says, like the riches are in the niches, right? Like if your thing is cybersecurity, uh, get that certification and make sure that you have like that that paperwork that justifies like, hey, I know these things. But then after that, figure out like what niche within cybersecurity really lights you up, like you're really into, and study it. Like find books, find TED Talks, find YouTube videos. Just get curious, get know more about it than anybody else in the room, and that will increase your value tremendously, right? Because people will look at you as the as the resident expert in this thing, and that's what you want, right? Like you want to uh you want to stay current, right? There's so much information, things are changing so fast. Like, I've seen it. I've seen it just in, like the last couple of years with artificial intelligence. Like the people who have really um, taken a deep dive into that space, and are spending time on the weekends playing around with like the latest products that are out there. um it 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 makes a difference. Like people recognize that stuff, and I think a lot of times, especially with new technology today, like people kind of afraid of all the changes that are happening, right? So not to say that you should uh become like a fear monger with these things, but you can kind of leverage fear to your advantage, honestly, right? Like when people are afraid of new tech, that's an opportunity for you to like become the expert on it, and then you're kind of their guide to help reduce the fear, right? And sometimes that can take you to like the C-suite. I mean, and I'm not joking. Like I've seen it happen where you'll have somebody who's like in their 60s, who doesn't know what the heck is going on, but they know that their business is being impacted by it. And they'll hear from the grapevine that like you're the go-to person to understand what this stuff means. And like people seek out experts and knowledge, right? Like you watch like the court shows, right? And what happens when you have like a trial, you bring in like an expert witness, right? And they can kind of break down to the layman like what that stuff means. Like that's what the power of being an expert in your niche really is. So just learn.
Well, that's good. So I do, switching subjects a little bit because you are, in and out of corporate and entrepreneurship, and as a minority leader, right? I mean, what would you say has been your biggest challenge to achieve your goals and what you want to set out for your career?
Hmm, that's a good one. I think there's an internal narrative. I think a lot of people have, especially minorities, especially in the corporate world, right? A lot of times, I'm in meetings, or I'm in the room, and I'm the only person that looks like me or sounds like me or has my kind of background. Um, and those internal narratives about, oh, my good enough to be here, that like imposter syndrome, I think people call, where sometimes that self-doubt will come in about whether you can do it or whether you can really have an impact. Um, so I think that's definitely something that uh, I have to work through, even after all these years in corporate America. I think it's a constant thing that you have to kind of work through. Um, but I think it's gotten easier, right? There's exercises and things that you can do to kind of help train yourself out of that, or recognize it and acknowledge it, and then kind of move through it. So that's what I do a lot as a coach, is I help people kind of work through those internal narratives, and work towards positive outcomes. But I think beyond that, uh, just being, I think I gave this um, recommendation earlier, but I think more recently I've been um, focused on it more, and I think I've seen benefits from it, like really bringing people into um, the things that I'm doing, the things I'm aspiring to do, professionally and in life. Because I think um, the more you're able to get other people excited or interested in the things that you do, like the more possibilities there are for doors to open down the line. So really getting people vested in the things that I'm doing is definitely something that especially as a minority, I've been trying to embrace and do more of now. And I think that was something that was a challenge for me initially, was like bringing people in and trying to get people vested into what I was doing.
Okay. So, at where you are on your career journey, right? What
Mhm.
do you think is the most important tool in your arsenal to continue to move forward?
Hmm. Um, I think recently I've been very intentional about the thing that I want to add to my arsenal with my my managers, and even my I call it at work, I call them skips, like the person that's above your manager. I don't know if that's like I'm sure there's like other terms for it, but
Yeah, skip level. Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like so I am really into business strategy. Like I think that not just in my space, but just as a consultant, I started to realize that strategy is like one of those cool buzzwords that you hear in companies all the time, but more oftentimes than not, companies don't really do strategies very well. They kind of talk about them, but they don't really know how to make them. So so that's been like the thing that I'm trying to get uh, added to my toolbox. Really, is just being like an expert in business strategy. Like really getting deep into what the different types of strategies are, why why they should be employed for different situations. Um, as a coach, I facilitate a lot of discussions, so I'm trying to learn more about how to visualize these things, because sometimes you're talking about very either things that are hard to talk about. Like you kind of have to like have pictures in order to really wrap your head around like concepts like market and
Give us an example. Come on, break it down to us. We're learning today business strategy.
sure. An example of how to visualize, or like, okay, yeah, I mean
How to
like
take a business strategy and then visualize it to an outcome.
yeah. So I have been so there's this guy I've been trying to like learn more about, like over the last year. It's a guy named Simon Wordley, and he created this um, visualization called Wordley Mapping, basically where um, you you try to visualize your business strategy through like map topology, essentially, right? So you have like a blank canvas. You break the canvas down into um, different sections, right? So you're looking at um, value over time, and then you're looking at what levers you have within your business to to get to the value that you ultimately like are trying to map to, right? So like the visualization, I'd have to like kind of whiteboard it, but basically like you have like value on the top, and then you have the things that are unknowns in this section, and then you have things that are like you have better knowledge about or more available in this section over here. You can see my hand, right? And then as you're talking about your business strategy, you're kind of plotting these things on the map. So the things that are are well known, or you already have established resources in your supply chain, you put over here. And you see, like, you try to figure out, is it higher up on the map or is it lower on the map? Um, and through that visualization exercise, it kind of helps you see whether whether this goal is an achievable goal, and what hurdles you need to clear in order to get to it, um, and which ones are um, low barrier that you can just flip the switch on a couple of things and knock that out, and you can start placing, like, business values on that. So maybe this is like 100,000 opportunity. Maybe the thing over way over on this side is like 100 million opportunities. So you don't spend your entire annual budget on this, but maybe you kind of incrementally work towards it so that by this time next year it's further over on the map than it was a year ago. Um, so that's like one visualization exercise I like to use with uh if we're having, like, some sort of like annual planning strategy meeting about what type of business opportunities you want to go after.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. If you guys have any questions out there on YouTube or here on the call, please put them in the chat. I am trying to monitor both things at the same time. But curious to know where you are right now, and
Mhm.
new dad, I know, but what's next, right, for
Mhm.
you as you now do your own strategy? Because I think that we all should have our own career strategy, career roadmap. That's
Mhm.
something that we teach folks how to do that are builders. But
Mhm.
so what's next, for you?
Yeah, so I have two tracks. I have my, professional career track. So I work at Bloomberg. So I have my career track there, and then, you know, I got I got these businesses. I gotta make something happen with these businesses, right? So, on the real estate front, we are actively looking for, we do um, short-term rentals. So we're looking to acquire another multifamily unit to expand that business this year. Um, Interest rates are a little crazy right now, so kind of trying to time the market. But there are opportunities out there. So we're kind of actively looking, waiting for the right one. But that's going on in the real estate space. I am a coach outside of Bloomberg. So I'm open for business, for anybody that is interested in working with the coach. I have a coaching service website. You can find me on LinkedIn. So that's happening. I'm just out marketing the business, trying to get out in front of as many people as possible to promote that. Um, and then in my day to day, like I mentioned before, like I see a need for more expertise in strategy development, business strategy development. So that is something that I am being loud about at work, right? So I'm talking to stakeholders about it, trying to get into some of those meetings to kind of understand uh, how their processes work, and then every here and there kind of drop seeds so that eventually hopefully by this time next year I can help facilitate some of those discussions and uh, help come up with better strategies, because I just feel like sometimes strategies could be better. We
Well,
can
I
we can do
mean,
better.
and yeah, and it's hard, of course. One of the things that at the conference, and you guys have heard me say this before, but it was really enlightening because I never thought about it like that. Joe Sullivan was doing the evening keynote on our day two, and he said, the CISO is the only C-level executive that doesn't have a clear path to the CEO role.
Mm.
And it just hit me. I'm like, okay, yeah, the chief financial officer, yes, the chief legal officer, yes, to pass to sit at the CEO role. And
Hmm.
What I think that has to do with is in the profession itself, we're always so task oriented. We're always so much focused on the technology and being the technologist side of things. Even you mentioned AI, and I'm not anti AI, but I'm also an attorney. I'm a privacy attorney. We're hook, line, and sinker into this. It is moving straight ahead, but how
Hmm.
is it going to impact the longer term strategy for organization? And so I think with information security professionals, cybersecurity professionals, that's why I said I think the business knowledge is imperative, because if you understand the business, then you're actually able to give advice from a cybersecurity perspective that is answering a business question,
Hmm.
right? And so I think we, as cybersecurity professionals, don't do ourselves enough service in understanding
Yeah.
why we're in the room, what we're there to do. It's not just about the tools, it's not just preventing hackers. We are enabling. We want to enable the business to do whatever it is to make money. Now,
Yeah.
Bloomberg is a whole different thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on at BBG, and there's a
Hmm.
whole lot of stuff. So good luck
Hmm.
on that strategy piece, and
Hmm.
just pick a vertical and then go with that one, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of verticals at Bloomberg.
Oh yeah.
But understanding that, from a cybersecurity perspective, and under, that business acumen is important for the
Hmm.
future, right?
Hmm.
I've been screaming this for the past, since I started my first company. My first company was called MBS, which is Making Business Sense Out of Information Security.
Hmm.
Way, way, way back, because I saw, organizations buying tools to solve a problem,
Right.
but it was just a tool that was sitting there to solve one problem, and we
Hmm.
have 15 problems. And so
Hmm.
why, it was during the time PCI, and it was like, oh, we're going to buy this particular tool for compliance with PCI DSS. But nobody from the business was actually talking to the team to actually determine whether or not this tool was even going to be helpful,
Hmm.
right? And so
Hmm.
though that disconnect, right?
Yeah.
And then, the fact that CISOs typically sit underneath another C-level executive,
Hmm.
we're not doing ourselves a service by just being task oriented or ignoring the elephant in the room. If we understand the strategy of the business, we can now enable the business, not just a subject matter expert in a
Hmm.
particular area, but a subject matter expert with business acumen that actually can able to answer a business question. I
Yeah.
don't know. I went
Yeah.
off on a rant there.
No, no. It's funny as you were talking, like, the thing that just kept ringing in my head was like Apple, 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 right? Like, like Apple, like one of their biggest selling points is security, right? And we're talking about $1 trillion organization. So it's like you can't underestimate the value of security, right? Like security is a major player at the table. But it's like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, right? You have like, C-suite oftentimes is a much like, older generation of you know, business knowledge, mindset, all that stuff like that, right? So um there is sometimes, it's like I'll give you an example, like with AI, right? Like, a lot of people who are in leadership know that this is a big thing in the news and it's trending and stuff like that. Um, but uh, there's just not enough time in the day if you haven't been in this space already, for you to really catch up and understand all there is to know about this technology, right? Like you have to rely on the expertise of others in order to make strategic decisions quickly. Um,
But let me let
and
me let me ask you a question there real
uh-huh,
quick. But they're relying on technologists to explain AI that don't necessarily understand how that particular technology will enable the business to do more things, right? Because of course it's IT.
Hmm.
Technology moves fast, right? And so it's like
Hmm.
I'm watching it and I sit back and I watch it and everybody's, hook, line, and sinker. And I'm like, but
Hmm.
is it even something that you should do? Does it make business sense for your
Hmm.
organization for you to leverage this technology? And in what areas? It's just like the cloud. Where everybody's
Hmm.
so quick to go to the cloud, cloud, cloud. But it's like, okay, so you're in a multi-tenant infrastructure where, who's monitoring your cloud? And it's
Right.
like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. And
Hmm.
so when we're in the room in these spaces with the technology that's moving fast, but there are no people translating that or don't
Hmm.
necessarily translate that. The salespeople could try to teach you and tell you that it's going to solve everything.
Hmm.
But still, we're lacking what you're talking about from a strategy perspective. How does leveraging this technology help us in our business?
Yeah, I mean that's the opportunity, right? Like that is exactly um where I was going with it was, sometimes you have to actually educate and uh sort of map it out so people can really understand like the value that you can bring to that conversation. It's not like I think um I don't think that 10 years from now that a chief security officer is not going to have a pathway to this, CEO, right? I think that's probably the case right now because it's a new area. Businesses are still trying to wrap their heads around it. I mean, I feel like every other month you're hearing about this company gets hacked and that company gets hacked, and it's a huge impact to reputation, right? So the businesses are already feeling the impact to the bottom line. They're just still catching up to um, the reality that this area um, has to be a part of the strategy, or the business will ultimately fall because of it, right? So, like to me, I like everything. All of it is opportunity, right? It's just a matter of like how you um, engage with it. So if that is not if if whatever company that you're at, if you don't see a clear path to how um, um, you can become a part of the strategic conversation, that means that there's an educational gap there, and you may be the person that can help close that gap, so that you know the business does understand the value of how security needs to be a part of the strategy, right? And how that can be an actual market differentiator for them, right? Like you have a lot of companies that are coming up now. Like I was reading about I'm forgetting the name for all these companies right now, but there's a company that recently came up that has like a more uh, security based uh, AI offering, right? And there's supposed, a lot of people, I think Bezos has invested in it. A couple other people invested in it, and they're calling it like the Google killer, right? Like it's going to be hopefully competing with Alphabet one day. Who knows, right? Like nobody knows, but I think uh, security is going to become more of a market differentiator as the years go, because the world is digital now, right? Like if you don't have a secure digital platform, people aren't going to work with you. That's the bottom line, right? They like if they work with you, they know that their information is at risk, and that nobody wants that.
But it all depends. As I got a letter from AT&T about their breach in March, so
Mm-hmm.
I was informed that my information was out there on the dark net by my identity, but my credit monitoring service before I
Mm-hmm.
got the letter from AT&T. So,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I, you're absolutely correct when you say that security piece needs to be at the table. Technology, like I said, tends to move faster. So the security and privacy piece behind AI, right? It becomes AI is not just this thing like the cloud was. It's not that. It's still a human being behind it. It's still a human being encoding it. It's still a human being that actually is it is the one that's writing the code, those particular algorithms. That's the word I'm looking
Mhm.
for. So that human being that's developing that algorithm is still subject to biases and things like that. We've seen this happen over the past decade where they turn
Mhm.
on AI and, the machine learning piece, and it becomes this racist, thing that
Gemini, Gemini. Yep, there you go.
so it becomes okay. So as I sit here and watch, and I'm not one to say it doesn't exist. I think that there are other opportunities, that AI is not going to take away jobs. If anything, it's going to create different jobs and individuals that need to look at it from an ethical perspective. I said, well, if we have a bot that's a white guy, then we need to have a black female bot. We need to have an Asian female bot. We need to have an Asian male bot. We need to have a poor bot. I mean, again,
Mhm.
if AI is going to quote unquote solve our problems, then it needs to have representation. And that's what we're trying to correct with these technologies. But it's going too fast. I mean, who would give their 2 year old? How old is your child now?
8 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and how old is AI? AI is probably still a toddler, right? So who's going to give the
Yeah.
keys to the car to the toddler? Who's going to
Mhm.
do that?
Yeah.
Who's
No,
going to do that?
yeah, these are all like really, really great questions that,
You don't have the
I'm
answers
excited.
to.
I'm
I
excited
know.
to see. I'm popping my popcorn and just watching it like everybody else. Like, where's this all gonna end up? Um, it's an exciting time. I think it's an exciting time
Yeah.
for especially, if you're in security. I think it's an exciting time if you're in security. I think it's an exciting time if you're in AI. Any kind of any tech space, honestly, like we are in the age of the industrialization of technology, right? Like it is no longer a nice to have, it is a commodity now. So, um, it being a commodity space, um, means that, everybody has to become, uh, sort of like, a part of the system, if you will. And,
Mhm.
the people who are, leaders in that space, um, are essentially like at the forefront. Like you're essentially, if you're a new person coming in, uh, get to know everybody that's coming in with you, right? Because you are essentially going to become the future leaders in that space as this industry evolves. Um, one of the things that I feel like I didn't understand until I got, a little bit older was that, you come into business and you think, oh, I need to get to know, the director and the VP and the CEO and all stuff like that. And it's good. It's good to get exposure to these people. Like you can learn a lot from them. It's good to get FaceTime, all that good stuff. But in terms of like your network and the people that you want to try to build like really strong, um, relationships for in the future, get to really know the people who are go-getters who just joined like you, right? Because as they progress and move along, and you stay in contact, and you work with each other, do projects and stuff together, when they win, oftentimes you win, and when you win and you bring them along, and that's kind of how it really works, right? Like it's not about, uh um everybody that's, you know uh 2 and 3 degrees separated from you. It's like the people who are around you right now, like, the people that you went to school with, people that you still keep up with, like, like try to surround yourself with people who are, interested in the same stuff, and, trying to do the same, similar kind of things, aspiring for the same things. And those are going to be the people that really help, propel you and support you as you go forward. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. That hour went by pretty fast. If there's any questions, we only have like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay. So if there's any questions, put them in the chat. We'll hang out a little bit with you guys for a couple more minutes. You should have your questions ready, right? If you have any. And if I don't see any questions, then you guys know me enough to know I'm gonna shut it down. It's Friday night. We're in family time now. But
Yeah.
I thank you so much. I thank you so much for sharing your origin story, for coming on and talking to the aspirers. And I think it's very important for us to bring speakers to the table that are different, right? And that are, helpful in the holistic perspective of the professional. So you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
It was
And
my pleasure.
I appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. If anybody is interested in coaching opportunities, we provide that. And Ahmed is a teacher or a coach in our program as well. So without further ado, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. Deal with the challenges that you have going on, and we'll go from there. But take
Okay.
care. Good night,
Yes.
everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody.